Fantasy football has become the NFL's parallel universe. Each season, almost 30 million fans, hardcore and bordering on obsessive, spend countless hours drafting and recalibrating their fantasy team lineups. They watch twice as much TV sports as the average fan and 3 times more ESPN. Young eyeballs that advertisers drool over. Once dismissed by the NFL, fantasy has grown into a multi-billion-dollar sports bonanza. It began as a subculture of self-proclaimed geeks and nerds. Only 10 years ago, fantasy football would have made die-hard fans and athletes roll their eyes, but not today, thanks in part to fantasy's biggest cheerleader.
If you say it's dorky, yeah, it's a little dorky, but so what?
It's cool now?
Absolutely, it's cool now.
Is it cool now?
I definitely think it's cool now, Sharon. Listen, Jay-Z plays fantasy sports. You know, he's in a hardcore 12-team fantasy football league. Like, whatever you think of Jay-Z, he's not a nerd. There are leagues filled with Playboy playmates. Grandmas play, kids play, you know, priests, rabbis, and ministers. Sounds like the start of a joke. It's actually 3 different leagues I know about. Everyone plays fantasy football, like they do every year.
And in the world of fantasy sports, everyone wants a piece of Matthew Berry. He is ESPN's senior fantasy sports analyst and helped elevate its popularity to the level of real sports.
You want me to talk you out of drafting Adrian Peterson #1? Well, listen, who wants to win every year? That's boring.
On radio and TV.
I select Ravens running back Ray Rice.
Or at drafts and book signings.
Thank you so much for coming out. I really appreciate it. Christian Michael is actually who you want.
Berry's fantasy picks and player evaluations
It's like the best offensive line in football.
are considered gospel to the fantasy faithful.
Before we go to bed, I always read her a little snip from your book.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Puts her right to sleep?
Oh, yeah, she loves it.
Right.
His book, Fantasy Life, released over the summer, was a New York Times bestseller.
Do you feel a little bit like the nerd who got invited to like the cool table?
Oh, totally. Oh, totally.
What's going on in fantasy land?
They're doing a profile on me and fantasy football.
How far are you taking this crap?
A self-described geek, Berry finds it unimaginable that he now shares airtime with actual football greats and that celebrities sidle up to him for help with their fantasy teams.
In what universe should I ever be hanging out with Jay-Z? In what universe? No universe, Sharon. But I got to do that because of fantasy sports.
The road to Matthew Berry's fantasy life began in the heart of football country, Texas.
Were you a big football player?
I was not a big football player. I was a Jewish kid growing up in Texas. They don't let Jewish kids play Texas football.
Good job. All right, George Foster.
So in 1985, while others tore up the gridiron, Berry, just 14, joined a fantasy baseball league. That's him in the glasses holding court.
Matthew, for who?
Bill Doran.
Bill Doran, what is he?
Second base, Houston Astros.
Berry would go on to become a Hollywood screenwriter. Unhappy, he found joy in a side job, working for free as a fantasy sports writer.
And I was thrilled. I was doing backflips. Like, that let me know that I think we're on the right path here.
A path that led him to start his own fantasy website called The Talented Mr. Roto.
Time once again for one of the more popular segments on the show, Flex Appeal.
It became so popular that in 2007, ESPN bought it and made Berry the network's Mr. Fantasy.
The 10 names that came in the most are here on the screen.
Fantasy sports saved my life. Without fantasy sports, I'm still in Hollywood, miserable. Without fantasy sports, I'm not at ESPN.
Happy draft day.
Running back Adrian Peterson. Running back Trent Richardson.
Each fantasy season begins with a draft. For almost 30 million fans, it is a new American ritual.
I'm so pumped up.
In New York,
We're going to take Jordy Nelson.
Cleveland, Dallas.
Jimmy Graham, tight end.
They create their own teams with NFL players and compete to see who will perform the best statistically in any given week.
It's only the best day of the year, which it is. Draft day is the best day of the year.
But is draft day better than birthdays, Christmas,
Yes.
anniversaries,
Sure, of course.
the day your twins were
I
born?
know, not better than the day my twins were born. Nice try, Sharon. But
Just checking.
Let me tell you, but it was like a double draft day, the day my twins were born. That's how awesome it was. Yeah.
That's the ultimate compliment you can get, right?
Duh.
It used to be we were the minority, and now I feel like the minority is the people that don't play.
Fantasy's growth made Matthew Berry a star.
Once again, welcome inside the show.
Today, he's its most recognized personality.
So the games haven't even started today. How many people have reached out to you?
I just checked my Twitter about 20 minutes ago. 646 in the last 20 minutes.
646 people in 20 minutes.
Yeah. So over the course of a Sunday morning, it's about 5,000 people.
Fantasy expert Matthew Berry.
During draft season, Berry is in high demand,
Alfred Morris.
trading barbs with the staff of the Howard Stern Show.
How much for you to take that
You've
pick
given
back?
me such bad advice over the
Oh,
years.
stop it.
You have a busy day today?
Yeah.
Making countless TV appearances.
I'm doing Colin's show.
My wide receiver up, T.Y. Hilton.
When's the first
And on game days, everyone looks to Berry for tips and inside information.
And they're saying what to you?
Who do you like on Sunday? This guy or this guy?
Ouch. Hey, double play ball. Out it's
Fantasy has spread into places you might not expect.
We're going to take Adrian Peterson. Oh, shocker!
Professional baseball teams like the St. Louis Cardinals hold an annual fantasy football draft, this year in a Pittsburgh hotel, while in the middle of a hot pennant race.
Oh, yeah, I am.
Matt Holliday was texting you during the draft.
Yes, he was.
Is
And
that
so-
cheating? Like,
You'd have to ask Matt Holliday's league mates, but I don't think so. He texted me like an hour before Game 3 of the World Series that he was playing in. And I'm like, dude, you're playing a World Series game. And he's just like, hey, it's how I relaxed. And I need a running back. Who you got?
Berry says that every baseball team has its own fantasy football league. The Cardinals call theirs Birds on a Bat, and it includes all-star pitcher Adam Wainwright.
One thing about fantasy football is it breaks up the monotony of a full season, 162 games. You know, we're here talking about baseball all the time. We'd go crazy. So fantasy football gives us something to channel our energy somewhere else.
Pitcher Chris Carpenter is a Cy Young Award winner.
You are real athletes, so why do you play fantasy?
The most exciting day of the year, and these guys will say no, is this day. As professional athletes, as baseball players, I mean, you got opening day, you got first day of spring training. There is nothing more exciting leading up to the last couple weeks except until you get to the draft.
Fantasy leagues also bring out a full range of sophomoric and bizarre behavior. There's trash talk and rituals and punishments that might surprise you, like in the Tattoo League in Omaha, Nebraska.
The loser of the league has to get a tattoo chosen by the winner. Like a permanent for the rest of your life tattoo. Like, what?
but who signs up for that?
10 guys! They actually told me, they said, we want to go to 12 teams. We can't find 2 other guys that'll sign the contract that'll agree to this punishment. And the guy who lost last year had to get a tattoo of Justin Bieber's face. It says, fantasy loser, hashtag YOLO swag. Like, come on, right?
Fans are so intense, they sometimes blur the line between real sports and fantasy. 2 years ago, running back Arian Foster, and this year, Ray Rice went down to injuries. When angry fantasy fans complained about them on Twitter, Rice and Foster lashed out. Spiteful and hateful, Rice tweeted. Foster wrote, "You people are sick."
What do you say to those athletes?
I think they're completely right. I understand why somebody like Arian Foster gets angry. He needs to be able to run to earn money for his family. Like, you know, he's just like, I'm worried about my livelihood, not your fantasy teams. And my take on that is like, I'm sorry. Like, if, not that I represent fantasy, but to the extent that I do, I apologize to Arian Foster and to every player that has ever gotten guff from a fan about their performance for fantasy.
What happens if you pick someone, you love him,
Right.
and he doesn't have a great week?
It sucks is what happens. You know what I mean? Like, it sucks.
But
Like,
what do you hear from people?
Oh,
like,
people are angry. People very, anger, death threats. I wish you would die.
have you gotten death threats?
Oh, I've totally gotten death threats. I've gotten death threats. I've gotten anti-Semitic stuff because I talk about the fact that I'm Jewish in my column. So I've gotten anti-Semitic things.
Are they joking?
I don't know. I mean, like, I've never really, I don't engage with them for far enough to know, like, hey, listen, you know, crazy anti-Semitic ranter. Just wondering, like, this fun? Are we cool? Or, like, you angry at me, really? Do you really hope I would die? I just sort of ignore it, right?
Fantasy football has changed the way we watch sports.
30 seconds and 2 timeouts. It's at least a field goal.
Now fans are keeping tabs on almost every game.
Does anybody have Pollard?
Instead of only rooting for their home team, they track their fantasy players around the league.
I'll take Richardson.
I want a Trent.
That stake in every game has been an economic windfall for the NFL.
Touchdown, Matt Ryan.
Yeah, but straight to Julio.
Early on, the NFL dismissed fantasy, and now they trot out their stars to promote it.
I haven't seen Williams get drafted.
Half of its fans play for free. The others spend an average of $52 to enter a league.
Is this a fad? Is this rollerblading or Pac-Man, or in 10 years, is it going to be even bigger?
By the way, cut to the people who rollerblade going, what do you mean? Is it no longer hip? What happened? Every study we see, I don't see a way that fantasy doesn't continue to grow. People love to root. Whether it is for our running back to score more points than your running back, we are a country that likes to root.
Come on, baby.
And that's what fantasy sports does.